Alrighty, YouTubers, so today we're going to be installing the Founder's caster camber plates, and unfortunately mine did not come with any instructions. It's fairly simple, so we're going to figure this out. But the first thing is, these are from Founders and you can get them powder coated in red or black. I have a video specifically going over an unboxing and everything, all the information as much as I could share with you guys. So if you guys are interested in any information on these, go ahead and check out that video. Today we're going to be focusing on the install, but keep in mind that this isn't going to be the only thing I'm installing. I'm going to be replacing everything: the A-arms, the springs and shocks and steering components and everything. So even though this video is specifically on the caster camber plates, you may notice everything else in here changing throughout the video, and that is due to the fact that I'm doing all of the coilovers, the A-arms, the everything, and I'm breaking them down into individual videos. So today we're going to be specifically in this video looking at the caster camber plate install, but I will have videos on the install of the A-arms, the coilovers, the steering components, and all of that. So keep that in mind, and don't worry, I'm going to do my best to just include the things that you need to do. So first thing you need to do is go ahead and support your A-arm with a jack or jack stand, preferably a jack because you may need to adjust it later on. So I went ahead and have this just enough pressure to hold the A-arm up, because right now, really, besides the sway bar, your shock is the only thing holding your A-arm up, because you have spring pressure from the spring behind it. And really the only thing holding that up is your shock. So as soon as we release the shock up top from the caster camber plate, it is going to release. So you want to make sure that you have this all supported. Then after you have that supported, you want to go ahead and remove your cap, which you can just simply use a flathead screwdriver. And then we're going to, once you know your A-arm is supported, we're going to go ahead and break this loose, and I'll get you set up so we can go ahead and do that now. Keep in mind that the information I provide you as far as sizes are not guaranteed. These cars are older, so the chances of the shock or basically any component on this car is a good chance that it is not always the original size. So you may have a replacement in there that is the exact same size, maybe 3/4, but maybe not. So keep in mind, mine is 13/16 here, and sometimes you will have an Allen head here where you will hold it with an Allen. Mine is actually a flat shaft, has two flat sides. That is a 10mm, and you go ahead and hold that. So roughly 10mm is the best fitting one I could find. It is worn out a little bit on one side. So once you figure out what your hardware is, go ahead and hold that center section of the shock and break loose the nut. And then once you've done that, just make sure your A-arm is supported and go ahead and remove that nut completely. There we go. When you go ahead and go to install these, you want to make sure that you get this as close to the original location that the shock was mounted in before, so you can keep your alignment as close as possible as far as caster and camber. So basically what I've done after I've removed the cap and the nut off the top before we go ahead and remove the top portion, this is still all mounted. What you want to do is find out a close measurement of where your shock is mounted, just so when you install your new caster camber plate, you're somewhat close to what your alignment was before. So you can either take a measurement from this shaft to the firewall and from this shaft to your fender and try to line that up best as possible, so your shock is at least at the same geometry or close to it, and then the caster camber plate as well. So basically what I've done, I've taken this, kind of put it together with a couple of bolts, and I've already done this, but basically I set this center section on top of the shaft, as well as lined up the existing bolts and nuts on the caster camber plate, lined it up with this plate. So basically I know that this caster camber plate, even though it's got a different shape to it than the old one, I know kind of where it's going to sit. I've drawn a line where the bolts should pass through the caster camber plate, So basically this puts it as close to the camber and the caster. So this should be, I'm using the back 2 holes. There are 3 holes, so this looks like this, but I'm not using the front 2 holes. I'm using the back 2, so it's going to be almost all the way forward. And this, all this is doing is basically keeping it as close as possible to what my alignment was before, so I can at least drive it to go get in alignment once everything is done. So this is just trying to prevent any major or drastic changes to the alignment needing to be done. This keeps it hopefully as simple as possible. So let's go ahead and move on. This is simple to put together. This only goes in one way, and then you use a washer on the top of your Allen head. And then I'm going to leave these not loose, but I'm not going to tighten them down just yet until I know everything is fine once we get the old caster camber plates out. So just go ahead and put these in. That's good. This is for this side, so let's go ahead and get this out. These are 13 millimeters, so I'm just going to go ahead and break them loose. And then I'm actually most likely going to paint this. So luckily you guys don't have to watch all of that, but I painted this engine bay a few years ago, and over time it's gotten dirty and scratched up and things have had to change, and you can see the undercoating in some places, so might as well do it. Yep, it's good to go. Alright, now the bracket underneath is just kind of hanging here. Go ahead and take this off, and that's going to fall underneath. So there it is, the old caster camber plate. It's rubber bushing. It allows a lot of deflection. Stamp material, definitely not as strong, especially with this nylon bushing. This is definitely going to be a lot stronger. Basically what I'm going to do is, before reinstalling this, I'm actually going to be installing a coilover, so this will not be bolting back up to my caster camber plate, but I am going to go ahead and paint this, because when I go ahead and put on the new caster camber plate, that's gonna look horrible. So we're gonna go ahead and get that taken care of now. So the next step is literally to set the caster camber plate on there. I had my locations marked, so I just lined it up best as possible, and I installed the bracket underneath, snugged it up. Then I got this roughly where I wanted it and snugged it up. Right now I still have the old shock mounted, and like I stated earlier in the video, I was going to do separate videos of the coilover install and A-arm install, but it's going to be too much work of going back and forth. I'm not going to deal with that just to make separate videos. So the next video after this will literally just be removing the A-arms and springs and shocks and replacing them with coilovers and tubular A-arms. I'm not going to break it down into individual videos. It'll just have to be watched that way because it's just too much work. So as far as that's all done. I will try to provide you with the torque specs on this hardware, but like I said, Founders did not provide me with any installation instructions, so I don't have that. I'm just going to use the stock torque specs as far as this, and we'll go from there. And then after I get the new coilovers and A-arms in, then I'll go ahead and get this torque down up here. Sorry, this video didn't end the way it should have, but all in all, we're getting it all installed, and I hope you guys enjoy. If there's any questions or comments that you guys have, I'll do my best to answer. Just drop a comment down below. But if you guys enjoyed this video and the Camaro content, please make sure to hit that thumbs up. And as always, if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing.